Danny fell into step beside him. The streets of Darkwater were already emptying, everyone moving inside earlier than usual. "I'm not joking around, Ryan," Danny said. "I've heard it. 2 years back, right outside my house, late at night." "Heard what?" Danny went quiet for a moment. "My mom's voice. My mom has been gone for 6 years, Ryan." Ryan didn't have an answer for that. The next day had the particular quality of days before storms. Everyone moving with purpose, getting things done early, watching the sky. By late afternoon, every porch in Darkwater was empty. By evening, every door in town was shut. Ryan and his wife Sarah sat in the living room. The television was on, but neither of them was watching it. Around 10 o'clock, Sarah turned off most of the lights. She was trying to seem casual about it, but her eyes kept going to the door. "You doing okay?" Ryan asked. She gave a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Ask me again in the morning." At 11, the town was so quiet that Ryan could hear the bayou moving somewhere in the dark beyond the tree line. He checked the locks. He wasn't sure when he decided to do that, but he did it. Just before midnight, there was a knock at the door. Both of them went still. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered. "Yes." A pause. Then it came again. 3 knocks, even impatient. "It's probably just," Ryan started. Then a voice. "Ryan. Ryan, open up. Please, Ryan." The color left Ryan's face entirely. It was Danny's voice. Perfectly, completely Danny. The particular rhythm of how Danny said his name, the slight roughness in his throat that had been there since high school. "Ryan, man, I need help. Please." Sarah grabbed his arm. "Don't. What if it's actually him? What if something happened? Ryan, remember what Elder James said." The voice came again, more urgent now. "There's something behind me, Ryan. I'm serious, man. Please open the door." Ryan was already at the door. His hand was on the deadbolt. The voice at the door ghost. USA Horror Story, United States. In the small town of Darkwater, deep in the Louisiana bayou, there was a rule that every family followed without question. After sundown, you did not open your door. No matter who called out, no matter how familiar the voice sounded, you did not open your door. Most people who had grown up in Darkwater accepted this rule the way they accepted the heat and the mosquitoes, as simply part of life in this place. But not Ryan. Ryan had gone to college in Baton Rouge, gotten a degree in engineering, and come back to Darkwater to look after his aging mother. He found the town's fear embarrassing. One evening, the whole community gathered on the porch of the old feed store, the way they did whenever something needed to be said to everyone at once. The air had a particular quality to it, that specific stillness that settles over southern Louisiana when something is about to change. "Listen up, all of you," said Elder James, a man who had lived in Darkwater his whole life, and whose word carried more weight than anyone else's. "Tomorrow night is the dark of the moon, same as every year. Nobody opens their door after nightfall. I don't care who knocks. I don't care what you hear. You keep that door shut." Ryan couldn't help himself. "Elder James, with all due respect, this is the 21st century. You're asking people to barricade themselves in their homes because of a ghost story." "Ryan, don't." His friend Danny, who had grown up 3 houses down from him and had known him since kindergarten, put a hand on his arm. "I'm just saying what everybody's thinking. You know what happened to Marcus Thompson 2 years ago?" Elder James said quietly. "Heart attack. The doctor confirmed it. The doctor confirmed the cause of death. You know why his heart gave out? Because he opened his door." Ryan wanted to argue further, but something in the old man's eyes, not anger, just a deep, tired certainty, made him stop. Walking home, everything in him wanted to turn it. This was his best friend's voice. His best friend was in trouble, and standing here behind a locked door while his best friend begged for help was the most wrong thing he had ever done. But then he remembered something Elder James had said. Not tonight, but years ago, when Ryan was a teenager and had asked the old man to explain the whole thing properly. "She doesn't come as a stranger. She comes as whoever you trust the most." Ryan stepped back from the door. His heart was slamming. "If you're really Danny," he said, his voice not quite steady, "tell me what we named the dog we found behind the school in 6th grade. Silence. Then, "Ryan, I don't have time for this. What did we name the dog?" More silence. Then the voice changed its approach. "Ryan, please. I'm your friend. Why are you doing this to me?" Sarah made a sharp sound and pointed. At the bottom of the door, visible through the narrow gap between door and threshold, a shadow had appeared. Ryan had seen a lot of shadows in his life. This one was wrong. The proportions were wrong. The way it moved, slow, deliberate, like something deciding whether to be patient or not, was wrong. He stepped back until his shoulders hit the far wall. Then the voice changed again. Not Danny's voice this time. Sarah's voice. "Ryan, let me in. I'm so cold." Ryan turned and looked at his wife. She was standing 5 feet to his left, staring at the door, her hand covering her mouth. The voice from outside was her voice. Exactly. Every inflection, every quality. The voice he had been waking up next to for 9 years. "Ryan, please. I don't understand why you won't let me in." Nobody moved. The room was absolutely silent except for the sound of their own breathing. Then the banging started. Not knocking anymore. Striking the door with real force, again and again, rhythmic and heavy, like something that had decided patience was finished. The walls of the house seemed to absorb the impacts. Pictures shifted on the shelves. "Why can't it just come in?" Ryan whispered. Elder James said once. Sarah's voice was barely audible. He said it needs to be invited. It can't enter on its own. That's why it knocks. That's why it uses the voices. The banging stopped. Then laughter, starting as a single voice. Danny's, and then multiplying, fragmenting, becoming half a dozen voices at once. Voices Ryan recognized from around town. Voices he hadn't heard in years. Voices belonging to people who were no longer living. The thing outside had apparently collected quite a few voices over the years and saw no reason to be subtle about it anymore. For almost an hour, the voices cycled. Old friends, family members, people Ryan had grown up with. Each voice perfectly rendered, each one with its particular plea, its particular reason why he should open the door just this once. Ryan and Sarah sat on the floor in the center of the living room with their backs against the couch and did not move and did not speak and did not open the door. Then, just before 2 in the morning, it stopped. Not gradually, all at once. The voices, the laughter, the shadow under the door, simply gone. As if a switch had been thrown somewhere. They stayed on the floor until sunrise. When Ryan finally unlocked the door and stepped out into the gray morning, the rest of Darkwater was doing the same. Front doors opening up and down the street. Faces appearing on porches. Everyone looking at everyone else with the same combination of exhaustion and profound relief. But in front of Marcus Chandler's house, 3 doors down, the porch was wrong. The front door was standing open. Ryan walked over slowly. Danny was already there. And when Ryan saw him, actual Danny, in person, solid and present, and clearly having been awake all night, a complicated wave of feeling passed through him that he didn't have words for. Marcus Chandler was inside, sitting in his armchair. The doctor, when he came, said the same thing the doctor always said in Darkwater after nights like this. Heart failure. No other apparent cause. His wife was standing in the kitchen, unable to explain anything except that he had heard her calling from outside and had gotten up to answer. His wife had been inside with him all night. At the community gathering that afternoon, Elder James looked older than Ryan had ever seen him look. "Now you know," he said simply, looking at Ryan. Ryan didn't argue. He didn't have anything to say that felt adequate to what the night had been. Who was she, he finally asked. Before she was, whatever she is now. Elder James was quiet for a long time. Her name was Clara. She lived here about 100 years ago. Her husband wanted her land, and some of the men in town helped him. They said she was practicing witchcraft. Took her out to the old well at the edge of the property, and he stopped. She called out for help the whole time, and nobody came. Nobody opened a door for her. The afternoon was still and hot, the way Louisiana afternoons always are. She said before she died. Elder James continued, that one day this town would hear the people they loved most calling out to them, and they would open their doors, and they would understand what it felt like to let someone in who meant them nothing but harm. Ryan looked down the empty street. Is there any way to end it? Maybe, Elder James said. She was wronged. The wrong was real. But the people who wronged her are 100 years gone and can't answer for it. What keeps her here is what keeps most things here. She's still waiting for something that will never come. An apology, an acknowledgement, something. He shook his head. And we keep giving her power every year by being afraid. Ryan thought about that. You're saying our fear feeds her. Every year we lock ourselves inside and tremble. We remind her she still has power. And she does. The old man looked at him. But a man who is afraid has. He couldn't hold back anymore. Tell me something. Why is this diner open at 2 in the morning in the middle of these woods? Who even comes here? Everyone went silent after his question. The lantern flame flared once, then dimmed. Son, the people who come here are the ones who've lost their way, and the ones the night itself has called for. Nobody called me here. My grandfather called me. The man on the bench smiled again, faintly. Ethan was starting to feel genuinely strange now. An unnamed fear had settled into him. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through outside. The lantern shook violently, and at that exact moment, from somewhere behind the diner, came the faint sound of a woman crying. The cup nearly slipped from Ethan's hand. He turned, startled, toward the dark woods behind them. What was that sound? Who's out there? Is someone crying? For a moment, silence fell over the diner again. Son, the dark of night carries a lot of sounds. Not every sound is real. But sir, I heard it clearly. Someone was crying. Sometimes a tired mind makes its own sounds. Maybe it was just your imagination. Ethan looked back again. There was nothing now but darkness. Deep, silent, terrifying darkness. The wind picked up again. The tree branches swayed as if someone were hiding among them, laughing softly. Ethan grabbed his bag quickly. No, I should get going. My grandfather will be waiting. Millbridge is straight ahead from here, right? The old man said nothing, just pointed silently down the path ahead. Walk straight ahead, but don't look back. Ethan paused for a moment. But why? What happens if I look back? Because some things can only be seen from behind. Ethan's throat went dry. He didn't say anything else. He just walked quickly out of the diner. The night had grown even deeper. Ethan walked fast, the sound of that crying still echoing in his ears. Several times he felt as though someone was walking behind him. But remembering the diner owner's words, he